So, when we are in this material world, there is a cycle of life. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati hayah aghayur indriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. And the cycle of life has three basic phases. It always goes on with everything that we see around in life. The first is a cycle of growth, and we all love growth, and we want to see it growing very much. But the process of growth has to be supplemented or complemented by the cycle of death and decay, because as we know in physics, it is said energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is neither created nor destroyed. So, if we want to accelerate growth, growth cannot be accelerated because the inputs have to become, suppose we want to go get 50 tons of food. Where is this growth going to come from? It has to be balanced by the process of birth, death, old age and decay. So decay process and the death process have to supplement the process of growth. Even though we all love only growth, but if you just simply want to create a huge growth, but the net, because energy is not created or destroyed, it's the same energy that needs to go round and round. So the process of growth has to be supplemented by the process of death and decay. And this process has to go on in a proper way. If this is not properly taken care of, then what happens is that your process of growth will not take place the proper way. Or if you want to accelerate growth artificially, as we are trying to do today, and we're not taking care of the process of death and decay, then our growth is going to not go on unhampered. We'll have a lot of problems in the process of growth. So, as you saw a few minutes ago in what the devotees were doing, they were putting a lot of leaves on the ground of a plot where they were going to grow vegetables. Normally we think that that is not the right way to do it, because we think we should clean up the land before we grow. But if we want to grow 5 tons or 5 kilograms of food, it has to have that much of potential in the soil that will actually help this growth process. So therefore, the process of death and decay has to take place. And this process of death and decay is the process of sacrifice. Or yajna. This process of sacrifice or yajna is the process that actually balances this whole process of death and decay. And as we balance the process of death and decay through this process of yajna or sacrifice, we will actually see a balanced death. All these processes have to be taken care of. Now, in the material world, we know which is the process. We have different demigods and different things that we all know. Who do you think takes part in the process of decay?
Shiva.
And who do you think takes part in the process of growth?
Vishnu.
Vishnu, or is it Brahma?
Growth.
Yes?
Brahma.
Brahma, okay. So, see, this world everything in this world has got a fixed amount of energy. Now this fixed amount of energy has to move around. There is nothing coming from else outside of this system. So the system has to work. And to make this system work, we have different demigods in charge of these different processes. So therefore Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 3.9, yajna arthat karma anmatra karma bandhana tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. So everything has to be a process of sacrifice. So only if we help this whole cycle of life properly, then people will live properly in this world. But if this process is not going on properly, then we could not live properly in this world. And while living here in this world, we have yajna arthat karma anyatra karma bandhana tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. And then Krishna says that annat bhavanti bhutani parjanyat anna sambhavaha. Then what is that after that? Yajna bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhavaha. Every action is actually going to give us an activity of the cycle. And then Krishna says evam pravartitam chakram. There is a cycle of life. Evam pravartitam chakram. This cycle of life has to go on. And how does that go on? We get rains. From the rains we get grains. From grains, everyone lives off grains, and grains come from rains, and rains come from activities or yajna. And if one does not follow this cycle, then what happens?
There is a disbalance in this.
Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati haya aghayur indriyo ramo. People will only live aghayur indriya ramo, only for the sense gratification. Mogham parthasa jivata, he will live uselessly. Now, what is happening today is that we all want to accelerate the process of growth, but we are not trying to understand the process of death and decay, which actually has to supplement the process of growth. And everyone loves growth, but there also has to be a supporting feature of decay and death. Now, the balance of this whole system is the maintenance of this whole system is the job of Lord Vishnu. How this whole thing has to be balanced. And this balancing process is called the process of yajna. The balancing process is the process of yajna. Now let us again go back to a few things that we all know. We have Durga, what is her role in this material world? What is it? Shrishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, Sadhana, Shakti, Reva, Eka, Chayeva, Bhunani, Vibharti, Durga. Ichchanurupam, Apiyasya Chistitesha, Govindamadi Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami. So, Durga is the material energy. Now, we have Lord Vishnu, or let's say we have Lord Brahma. What is his activity? To grow, and that is connected with the cycle of growth, and it has got to do with the mode of passion. Then we have Lord Shiva, who's in charge of the process of death and decay. Okay?
Yeah.
And then we have Lord Vishnu, who maintains this cycle, who knows how to balance this whole thing going on. And now then, what is Durga then doing? Now you have to understand what Durga is doing. It's like when you want to build a building, you want to build a nice building, the materials that you're going to use for the building are sand, cement, stones, etc., is the material energy. Right? Now, with that, someone is going to create
architect.
The engineers, the creation is going to take place. They're going to assemble it. With that, you're going to make so many different forms. All those different forms are going to be taking place by the energy of Durga. All of it. And now, what we have is Lord Brahma who is doing that job. Then it is Lord Shiva who recycles the recycling process has to go on for everything. Now we have, in the cycle of death, decay and growth, we always have, there's a cycle of minerals, there's a cycle of water, there's a cycle of energy, all of them going on. Now, what Lord Vishnu does here is sees that these processes are all properly balanced, so that the growth is not overly stressed, neither is death and decay decried or looked down upon, as we see in the case of the Daksha Yagya. Daksha was in charge, he's a Prajapati, he was in charge of populating the world, the process of growth. But his son-in-law was Lord Shiva, who was married to Sati. And Sati, come again?
He's Durga.
Yeah, she's Durga. So Lord Shiva was always with his bhasma and living amongst the dead, etc. So Daksha did not like the idea that his beautiful daughter should be with a person who's with all this death and decay. So he wanted to actually ignore him. And when he wanted to ignore him and perform yajna, what was the result? What was the result of the Daksha Yagya?
Has been cursed.
It was a destruction. Nothing happened out of it. It was actually a great failure. So it was Vishnu who balances the whole thing. And what is Vishnu? Vishnu is the goal of life. What is the goal of life? In this life that we have, that we're living in, we have the process of growth, we have the process of decay, death. All have to face it. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha dosha anudarshanam. This is going on all the time. But what gives us purpose in life? The purpose comes when we understand Vishnu, the goal of life. So this process of cycle of birth and death and has to have a goal. Without it, there is no yajna. There is no sacrifice. Why do you sacrifice anything? If everyone simply wants to enjoy their life in this world, then nothing happens. We don't go anywhere. We simply go with the birth, the process of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So here, Vishnu comes in. And therefore, whenever we are growing from the soil also, we have to understand that the soil also needs to be replenished equally, much more than what we're trying to grow. So only if the soil is well replenished, then we want to grow a lot of things in the soil. But that has to be supported by the process of death and decay. And unfortunately, because of not understanding this process, and primarily because the goal of life is not to satisfy Vishnu, or not for any higher purpose of life, it is just to make some quick bucks, quick money for sense gratification. So we neglect the process of death and decay, and therefore we have a system in which the growth is now being hampered. Food is getting devalued every day. Why? Because there is no purpose of life. Purpose is only sense gratification, a very temporary sense gratification. So therefore this process will actually change if we understand what the Bhagavad Gita is saying, that you have to understand the purpose of life, the goal of life. And the goal of life has to be yajna. And when you want to understand yajna, then the process of life, cycle of life is complete.
So it was a great session with His Grace Madhav Prabhu. I'd like to ask a very relevant question that is going on in my mind. that the cycle of life that has been explained in this video, does this cycle of life relate to the food that we eat daily? Does this cycle of life is related to each and everything that we are trying to accept from the nature? Do we hold any responsibility over Mother Earth? Do we hold any responsibility to save the soil from where we get the food daily, which is related very much to the cycle of life? So kindly answer this question of mine, and kindly guide us, everyone.